Hi, this is Jennifer Miner. Today's card will feature direct-to-paper inking, digital die cuts, and rhinestone application. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of layers to this card, but certainly a lot of elements and fun sparkle and shimmer. And like normal, I am going to go ahead and start with my background, and I'm doing the direct-to-paper application. And here I am working with the shaded lilac, just applying that directly to my card. This time I'm using the rectangular shaped ink blending tool. This happens to be a handleless one that my brother made for me, and I really do like it. When I switch over to the Wilted Violet, which I'll do now, I'm working with a circular one. There's no rhyme or reason, it just kind of works. I think the juicier the ink pad or the more intense the color, it works a little bit better with the circular. But as you can see in the video, I am just building up the colors, working with those shades. Now switching over to the Evergreen Boughs, which is this great, fun, bright green color. And just working that into the ink that I have on the page, as well as just into my white spaces, since I know I didn't want any white left on this card. And now I'm going to add in the cracked pistachio. And you can just see, working that onto the card, I will go back and forth between these four values and just work them and try and get the blend as smooth as possible between the purple and the green shade. And so I'll sit back for a minute and let you just watch some inking. Hi, it's me back again. I'm going to add a little walnut stain around the edges. I actually have to redo this later in the video because my background was a little too big for my die cut. So you'll see that die cut coming up. This is a shape I purchased from the online silhouette store, kind of modified it to fit my card. And then you can see adding a little bit of white water splash on my ink, and that just looks amazing. I think it's so neat to watch that happen. So here's my background. I just die cut it out of a sheet of white cardstock, and there I am fixing my mistake. I left that in so you can just see sometimes things don't go the way that you plan, and you can just work around those. So I am going to start by inking my die cut with Versamark ink and then applying this embossing powder. This is a super neat powder. It is called Violet Satin Pearl. It is iridescent. When you look at this images that have been embossed with it, it looks like pearl from kind of head on, but as you get kind of those side glints, it is got this beautiful purple shimmer, really neat, fascinating look. And for this particular card, I actually went ahead and did this embossing technique, so the Versamark and then the powder 3 times. I wanted to get a really thick, fat feel to it, and it actually at the end almost feels like plastic. It doesn't even really feel like paper anymore. Gave a really neat look. And then I'm going to adhere that to my card. This time I actually used a spray adhesive when we get to that point. And I didn't show it because I have to go outside and spray it, but I was not able to glue this down with regular paper glue. So I used a spray adhesive and then went back over it with my static tool just to kind of pull a little bit of that stickiness away from it. And now I'm going to move on to the creation of the sentiment. So I'm using my Misty and the little Wilted Violet ink, and I'm just stamping that onto a piece of cardstock a couple of times just to get it the intensity that I want. And I left this next part in so you can kind of see my stamp was not perfectly straight when I stamped it. And so I'm just using my tabletop Fiskars guillotine cutter. This is a little baby of my big one, just to show you how you know, on these small ones, you really can work with those guillotine cutters to get the paper cut just how you want. And at that point, I feel like it looks pretty straight. So here I'm using a 1-inch square paper punch to create the tail on my sentiment. Super simple, really easy, neat, different shape. And so I'm going to cut another, what I call a matte shape for my sentiment. So again, just using my same solar white cardstock and my tabletop guillotine cutter. Kind of line that up loosely. You need to trim a little extra off. Be very careful with your guillotine cutters, people. And so I decide on this one that I am going to go ahead and add Wilted Violet for my background to kind of match up with the ink that I've used. And so again, just using, I'm actually started with the shaded Lilac, and then I'm going to do the Wilted Violet over it. You don't have to do it that way. I just kind of I like to think that it gives a little more depth to it. But so once I've got that inked up, I'm again going to take my square paper punch and just create another little tail on this. But I don't get it exactly right, which you'll notice this is a theme in my life. So I'm just going to use scissors to kind of trim it down to where I want it. The paper punch kind of gave me a place to start, which I really liked. Adding a little bit more ink, and then just going to use my Scotch adhesive to glue it right onto my card front. And now that was my giant bag of gems. I have sorted out clear, teal, and purple, but I figured none of you wanted to watch me do that process, so I just skipped that, and now we're moving on to the application, and I will let you know I'm using 2 pickup sticks, a pair of tweezers, as well as my fingers. Again, I had another super sticky day when I was working on this project, but I am just adding rhinestones, and these are not adhesive, these are just your plain basic craft stones, and these I purchased at Michael's, but I think you can get them anywhere. Pretty inexpensive, and I knew I needed a lot, so that's why I went this direction. And then I'm just one by one gluing these onto my card, and I recommend a fantastic television program. I was watching something really fun while I did this because it took quite a long time to kind of work with the adhesive. And then here you can see super speed, kind of my chopstick method, picking it up with my quick stick or pick me up tool, and then pushing it off with the other one. And at some point I have to use my fingers. I'm using, like I said, tweezers, just a little bit of everything. This is kind of a make it work moment. But at the end of the day, I loved how this card turned out. I am so excited to get this baby in the mail, and I hope that my card today has inspired you to get out and create. And thank you guys so much for your time and your support, and have a crafty day.